Hi, good evening, and welcome to this week's episode and installment of the Minority Report. I'm Marilyn David, your host, and we are off tonight. Slightly bit of a late start. We had some little challenges, minor challenges or so, but we are up and running, and we are ready to get into this week's installment and episode of the Minority Report. We are indeed grateful, and always so, that you log on to the program and that you keep our company, be a part of the discussions that we normally have, and actively participate in making this program a success. And indeed a success it has been. I want to take the opportunity at this point to thank the thousands of viewers who every time we sit and do the analysis and look at the numbers on the show, we see climbing all up the way to 10,000 views and beyond. And so I want to really say thank you to all of those who log on, all of you who participate via the live viewing, and the many persons who as well go back after the show is completed on the night and go back one day after, 2 days after, as the case may be, and also view the show. One of the things that we continue to pride ourselves on the Minority Report and coming out of the Minority Council is the fact that information that is provided, especially to the public via this particular platform, is always information that is credible, information that can be backed up by the facts, information that is supported by the theories and assessments of industry professionals, and information that indeed you, the listening audience and the viewing audience, can take, as they say proverbially, to the bank, meaning that it is solid information. And so we definitely pride ourselves on that, and we thank you, Tobago, and by extension Trinidad and Tobago, and even the region. We seem to have quite a bit of listenership even in Grenada, on this particular network. So even in the region, we want to thank those of you who have indeed come together to make this particular program indeed a success. And so we for those of you who are joining us for the first time, you can view the program on Tobago Updates website. You can also view this program on the Tobago Updates YouTube page, or YouTube channel. However, the platform that many of you choose is the Tobago Updates Facebook page, and indeed, because you're able to be free with your comments and so on, you're able to make your recommendations. However, you can also view this particular program live on Amplia. Those of you who would have subscribed to the Amplia network, you can turn to channel 102. We know that we had some challenges today with the internet and so on. And so if you're experiencing that with your phone or your Facebook, in terms of the social media platforms, you can just switch your television to channel 102, and you can log on and view this program live and be with us. If you want to make a comment, you want to call into the program, you want to have a recommendation tabled, you can also WhatsApp or call 284-6597. That's 284-6597, or 356-8833. That's 356-8833. And we would definitely welcome your call. We would definitely welcome your comment. We welcome your recommendations. As many of the things that you would identify is what helps to make this program a success and to continue being successful in terms of reaching and meeting the needs of the very diverse listenership and audience that we do in fact have. This evening we're going to be having a very educational type program in terms of our first segment. We know that for those who don't know, and for those who do, we are celebrating World Mental Health Day today. Let me repeat that. Today is World Mental Health Day, And we want to be able to speak a bit to it. I think that has now become a critical issue in our society. And we're going to be having one of the industry professionals joining us shortly to advance that particular conversation. And I know quite a lot is expected to come out of that conversation. However, before we actually get into it, we're going to take a short break. And when we get back, we should be able to have our guest on the line. We're going to be having a virtual conversation. We should be able to have the guest on the line and ready for us to take it away. So let's stay logged on. Let's stay locked on. Share the live. Share the live. Let's get as many persons involved, especially for this particular part of the conversation, because I think it's something that has been affecting all of us in the workplace, in the home, and even more recently, we're seeing a number of incidences involving children and teenagers. And so I think it's very, very important for us to have these conversations. And so we're going to delve a bit into it. So as I said, stay locked on, and we'll be right back.
25 years of real good dashing food, delicacies, and enjoyment. Well, it come around again as we celebrate 25 years of the Tobago Blue Food Festival. This year promises to entice your taste buds again on Sunday, October 15th at Bloody Bay from as early as 10 a.m. All are invited to the celebration filled with craft, games, but most importantly, blue food. This is a brunch-style celebration and will also see the likes of Super Blue, Nyla Blackman, Preedy, Gerard Balfour, Joe Archer, Keyshawn Jack, and Junior Calypso star The Shay Saul, and more on Sunday, October 15th, 2023. Come celebrate 25 years of the Tobago Blue Food Festival.
Tobago now has its very own carnival.
She like loud music and
Platinum touch.
Jimmy's Holiday Resorts has 1, 2, and 3 bedroom fully self-contained apartments located at the heart of Crown Point. Minutes walk to the popular beaches, restaurants, bars, and the airport. Enjoy our amazing amenities such as fully equipped apartments complete with Wi-Fi, AC, TV, and a pool, and a mini-mart on the compound. Call 639-8292 or 8929. Jimmy's Holiday Resorts is your family's home away from home. Mount Pleasant Credit Union Back to School Loan Promotion. Loans up to 15,000. Requirements: job letter and a payslip no more than 1 month old. Utility bill, copy of book list, salary deduction, 10% down payment. For self-employed persons, evidence of income and expenditure, bank statement, 12 to 18 months. Other supporting document. Promotion ends October 18. Contact us at 639-8375 or 8108 or check us out on www.mpcutobago.com or email us at loans@mpcutobago.com. Mount Pleasant Credit Union's Back to School Loan Promotion.
We in Tobago for Carnival with the award-winning band Fog Angels, Juve and Mass.
You don't know it's your boy Young Brother representing for Fog Angels, Big Bad, Juve and Mass Band.
2 days of excitement, 2 days of jam on the road with Fog Angels, Juve and Mass Band.
Push back, baby. Push back and Fog Angels, baby.
We're Tobago's premium, all-inclusive Juve and Mass Band that consists of costume, free drinks, free food, goodie bags, makeup artist, t-shirt cut designer, pre-party, after-party on the beach, live DJs, biggest artists, 40-foot music trucks, tight security, VIP service on the road, and a decade of experience.
angels now. Take bamboo gal, fuck angels Juve band. Take bamboo gal, ha, fuck angels mass band.
For your premium all-inclusive packages, check Facebook, Instagram, or visit www.fogangels.com or call 492-9454 or 788-5481. Juve and Mass in Paradise. Play safe, play sexy, play Fog Angels.
Fog Angels make you feel it, feel it.
Rotisserie, mouth-watering fries, salads, combos, and specials galore. Feeling for something to eat? Come and see. Our rotisserie is seasoned to the T. Kicking chicken, masala, and jerk roast. Crispy fries made from scratch. Who do you know can't beat that? Or salads freshly cut and packed. When you taste it, you'll be wanting to come back. So come check us out on number 2 Robinson Street, Uptown Scarborough, Tobago. We open on Saturday nights from 7:30 to 11:30 p.m. Monday to Thursday, we're open from 10 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. and on Friday, 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Contact us at 772-7443 and all social media handles at The Rotisserie Factory.
Tobago Carnival, Caribbean Vibes presents Tequila Sunset. Tequila Sunset, October 27th. You know what you're doing. Scarborough Esplanade from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. It's a cooler fete like no other. Bring your squad and we'll take care of the vibe with your top TNT and New York DJs, surprise guest artists. Tequila Sunset will be an epic event you will never forget. Early bird tickets are $199 TT or $30 US. Get your tickets online on islandetickets.com or frontlineticketing.com. For more info, call 475-6218 or 754-7344. And New York, 917-561-9742. All drinks must be in plastic bottles and no ice or chaser allowed. Tequila Sunset, October 27th, Scarborough Esplanade.
Take your time and ride on the bike. Take your time and ride on the bike. Take your time and ride on the bike and ride on the bike and ride on the bike. She's loving the ambience of my. Somebody call the ambulance for this chick. I just long, I don't really quick. That's why she's loving me. Better when it's on your mind, walk with a stick. Meanwhile, you bend down, let me see you boom flick. Let me beat it up just life. That way you're loving me. When coming to I like the plenty. Sit on my riding like a Bentley. Full of that neat empty. Take your time and ride on the bike. Take your time and ride on the bike. Take your time and ride on the bike and ride on the bike and ride on the bike. 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 Ride on the 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 bike.
And folks, welcome back to the Minority Report. We are back up and running in studio, and joining us this evening, as indicated, as we were heading out, I'm going to have an industry professional, someone who is no stranger to doing quite a lot in the field of mental health and mental health counseling and so on throughout Trinidad and Tobago and I dare say the region. A young professional who is going to be joining us, and we're going to be rolling out a bit of conversation. I just want to touch on this as we go into this conversation. I want us to become mindful of what we've been seeing taking place in the news, especially with respect to our children right here in Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago, quite a lot taking place. And I think it has a lot to do with a breakdown in terms of this mental health conversation. So joining us right now, we have counseling psychologist, Mr. Sule Joseph. Sule, good evening. Are you hearing me?
Hey, Marlon. Yes, I am. I'm hearing you quite well.
Nicely.
Thank you for having me.
Nicely. Thanks for agreeing to be with us this evening. Before we
Well,
delve right into our conversation, I want you to share a bit about yourself with our viewers and our listeners. Let's get a little bit of background on Sule Joseph, who you are, what you do, and a bit of the impact that it's been having right now in Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, all right. Well, as you stated previously, my name is Sule Joseph. I am a counseling psychologist. And as fancy as that sounds, it just really means that I am trained to help you unravel issues that you may have, and find and help you discover your solution. My job is not to give you the solutions or tell you what will solve your problems, but to help you discover the solution to the issues that you have. I am a tour guide, right? So that's my job. I am a tour guide. I point out where the pitfalls may be in the safari, which animals might be dangerous, and what the consequences might be for touching them. You get to decide whether you want to touch the lion or not, or if you want to jump in the pit or not. All right? My job is just to point out that there's a pit, and that's a lion, what they look like, and what they can do, and then you make a decision. I have been doing this for about 13 years. A while. I've been doing this for a little while.
Yeah.
We see, I specialize in child and family therapy. But more so, I work a lot with children, particularly children with behavioral issues. So particularly with our children who have behavioral issues and who are high risk and so on. I do a lot of work with them. And so because of that, I also was asked to serve on Children's Authorities Board and so on. So I've been pleased to serve my country in that capacity.
Okay.
Yeah, I can boast, I suppose, of having clients both in Trinidad and Tobago. So persons in Tobago do also reach out to me. So I am pleased to be on the program because I feel like I come back home.
Home is definitely where the heart is, eh?
Correct. So thank you for having me.
So this evening, we want to dive right into it. Today's Mental Health Day. The world has taken steps to recognize an entire day for something that has now become somewhat of an ongoing conversation and conversation that has been getting or becoming more and more critical in relation to the impact that it has been having on society. Tell us firstly, what is mental health so that we can get a broad-based understanding, and how does that mental health that you're going to describe to us, how does that impact us in our day-to-day life?
All right. I am a simple fellow, and I like to break things down in a very simple manner so that we can all understand. Right? I don't profess to be the brightest out there, so I like to break it down in a very simple, simple into small bites, simple and digestible. I would like for the listeners and viewers and so on to think about it like a spectrum, a scale, a ruler. Mental health is the ruler. The entire ruler is mental health. On one end of the scale, you have mental wellness. It's just like being healthy. If you think about yourself physically, you're physically healthy, but then you can get a cold, and the cold will mean that you're no longer on the extreme spectrum of being very healthy. You're somewhere going down the line of starting to be ill. So there's one side of the ruler that is wellness, and of course, if we have one side that's wellness, we'll have the other side, which is illness, right? Or sickness, or however you want to view that. And so when we look at mental health is a spectrum. What we find in Trinidad and Tobago is that for a long time, and I'm hoping that we've been growing past that. For a long time, we have looked at mental illness and mental issues as a crazy people thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That is them crazy people and them. Right? And that's not how we should view it. Really, mental health is everybody. It's like your physical health. You could be sick and you can be well. That doesn't make you crazy and make you a bad person. So you can be well, you can be mentally well on one side of the spectrum. And then you can gradually, through incidents, things happening in your life and so on, right? A sudden death, something traumatic happened. Mm-hmm. You can move from being on one end of the rule of wellness to the other end of illness. All right? So when we talk about mental health, I really want listeners to imagine mental health is a spectrum. It's this spectrum that we go through a ruler on one end to the next. And you can move up the ruler or move down the ruler. I'm hoping that makes sense. Think of it like physical
definitely.
Wellness. You can be very healthy physically, or you can be unwell. You can be terminally ill on your deathbed, right? Or you could be very, very healthy, strong like an ox, and you can be anywhere in between that. Mm-hmm. So just like that is the case for your physical health, it's the same for your mental health. The difference is that a lot of us, from the time you get a cough and so on, we take that seriously. But from the time you start to see those symptoms of mental illness, we don't take that seriously. So that's the challenge. That's what we want to try to understand, that mental health is a serious issue, and it can impact us just like our physical. We take our physical health seriously. We need to take our mental health seriously.
You mentioned something. It's hard for the
body to function without the brain.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned something that I think I want you to delve into a little bit more, and that deals with the stigma that we have, or the perception, the public perception. The minute that person's hear the statement mental health, we have a society that you start to hear people saying, what is that, she crazy? What is we need that for? And that kind of thing. And that impedes a lot of persons from actually seeking the help that they need. I know in some organizations where they have, I think, the EAP program and so on, where they provide counseling for employees at different levels to different situations. When you hear the stories that come out of that, you realize how many persons are literally living on the edge mentally and are very close to just snapping. But a lot is tied to this stigma. How do we now mitigate against that whole issue of a stigma in relation to what we're seeing now? People just, the cases of suicide have increased. We're seeing children tripping off in schools, going crazy, fighting with teachers. A lot of issues that we can definitely now trace back to the state of their mental health. How do we now begin to treat with that? And I know you've been doing quite a lot of work with schools.
Yes, we've been doing quite a lot of work, and continue to do that. And of course, any school that invites me today, I was invited this week to a school in the far east to come and speak to some of the students and so on, and I'm always willing to do that. The thing about mental health is that we need to get to a place where we're starting to recognize that it is an important factor, which is all well and good. But we need to take more measurable, active measurable steps to, one, ensure that it is easily accessible, because it's much easier to access a physical doctor in Trinidad and or Tobago than it may be to find where a therapist is or psychologist to get counseling. Yeah, that's one. Two, there's a negative stigma specifically attached to that. If you go to a doctor, nobody views you as a terrible person for being ill, right? But if you go to a psychologist, there's a stigma attached to being crazy. And I usually don't like to use the word crazy, and I tell people crazy is a dismissive term. there are a whole host of psychological ailments that contribute to the behaviors that we then describe as crazy behavior. But there is a whole host of psychological illnesses that could cause that. But when we say somebody is crazy, it dismisses the behavior and it dismisses whatever pain and issues that they are going through. So one of the things I think we need to move away from the culture of just calling people crazy. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
And two, maybe more edification and education in schools for people to understand that these are things. Depression is a normal thing people go through for short periods. Today, I did a program, an internet television program. We spoke about Tobago, and Tobago, which is a legitimate form of depression as well after the end of a relationship. That too is a mental health issue.
Mm.
That too is quite normal. There are stages and phases that you go through, and that's quite normal that you go through. And if we make people feel bad for experiencing that, I think, and that lack of education,
mm-hmm.
that stigmatizes it. That makes it taboo. That makes it a thing that people don't want to associate with. There was some time back in Trinidad, a lady was stuck in traffic. I don't know if she got a bad drive or whatever, but a video went viral where this lady disrobed, took off her entire work clothes, exited her vehicle in the middle of traffic, and just started to walk up and down the I think that was Ryson Road. Walk up and down Ryson Road, and she started yelling and speaking to herself and so on. And people may say, that's crazy behavior. But clearly something triggered this woman who was functioning relatively what we would consider to be normal functioning. And then she just hit something, and that was it. And that could happen to anybody. And we need to just understand that and not stigmatize persons for experiencing a mental illness.
Wow. And you said something there, and the word that you used, I want to touch on that. Triggered. Now, I think I remember that particular incident because it went viral. But that simple word that you mentioned there, Sule, triggered. Something triggered. And I think let me say this. I looked at a situation today. Right here in Tobago, we had a situation where a student of a primary school was literally wreaking havoc, chaotic, slamming desks, and became uncontrollable in the school. And this is something that was triggered. He was good, and then he just went off into this fit of rage. I was looking today, we're seeing instances where several students are becoming involved in interactions and engagements in school to the point of fighting with teachers where something happened and they just triggered off and they fly into this fit of rage. How do we identify, first of all, because the issue here is good to be able to curb it or to treat it when it happens, but prevention is better than cure. How do we now position ourselves as a society, whether it's in the workplace, in the schools, whether even in our very homes, to be able to identify some of the signs and the symptoms that eventually connect with that simple word, trigger, that can cause somebody to transition from being a normal person 1 minute and then to acting totally in an irrational manner? How do we go about identifying these symptoms?
All right. The key, first of all, is education. All right? It's about educating persons. Both the person experiencing whatever whether it's a emotional abnormality or cognitive abnormality, whatever the issue is. Whether it's the person who's experiencing it or the persons who are witnessing it, the teacher, parents, whomever. It's about, to me, first and foremost, it's education. Just educate people about what it looks like, what are the signs, what to look out for, and so on. You don't have to be a specialist But as I said, if we start treating mental health more like physical health, if you see a child collapse and, and maybe start having something or beating up on the floor, you're not sure if it's seizures, you're just seeing the body's moving and then the mouth is frothing, you don't have to be a doctor as a teacher, but you can recognize that these are signs. And these are signs of something that might be very serious. And so what you do is then you have a list of persons. You have a doctor who you'll call EHS, you'll call whomever, and so on or whatever. And we must start approaching mental health with that level of seriousness. And it takes education for that. We must educate teachers, parents, so that they understand when they start seeing certain signs, this needs to occur. And then just as we have testing done for children, medical testing, psychological testing should be done. So we should have at an earlier stage, the school should already have an idea of the emotional temperament, the emotional and the personality and so on of children in their school. Because the personality, of course, which generally morphs and so on a bit, but what conventional psychology will tell us is by age 7 or 8 or so, more or less the core of that personality, core values and so on are kind of, formed. But the school will have an idea. You will know what are the best teaching methods to work with this child. Whether scolding will work, warning, or the child may need a little more of a stern disciplinary tactic because we understand the personality of each individual. So testing, I think, is a big part of what should be included in the culture. So we have an understanding of the functioning of these children, not just how they perform academically. You can be gifted academically, and your IQ is high, but your emotional intelligence is low. And you're somebody who may just say things off the cuff, or you may be inappropriate regularly and annoy and frustrate people, or you might be brilliant, but you don't know how to interact well with others. That causes you now to have turn inward and suffer with things like depression. You're brilliant, but now you have issues of depression and so on. Those are things we can pick up much earlier than we do. We are much more of a reactive type society when it comes to mental health than a proactive one. We can detect from early if this is a personality and what things triggers certain behaviors. And so we can then work with the child to come up with better coping mechanisms for the triggers. And we can help them also avoid some of the things that trigger them. So that they don't get themselves now in situations where they are triggered and they behave in a way that persons now have to say that, this child is crazy or this person is crazy. Now, there's another issue that we face, and I'm going to speak the truth here now. There's another issue that we face, I speak frankly. There's an issue we face, both at Trinidad and Tobago, which is that a lot of mental health issues we usually attribute to spirits. So we talk about persons being possessed and so on, and possessions and evil spirits and so on, and those are the things that we probably ascribe to mental health issues. Now, I am not saying that maybe in some issues or some situations or scenarios, maybe they may have more to it than just a mental health aspect. I really don't know. That's not my background. But what I say to people all the time is, if you can agree that faith without work can't work, you can have faith and not put in the work.
Agreed.
Why not do therapy and just whatever spiritual prayer and stuff you want to do as well? Why remove this therapy and only want to do the prayer? You want to do prayer, but you don't want to do the work. So I usually say, listen, there's nothing wrong with doing both. You want to pray and so on, nothing wrong with that at all. I welcome it. But you need to pray and work. So the therapy is the work. We're putting in the work, and if you want to pray along with that, that's excellent. But we can't remove that. We can't just pray and say it's an evil spirit and leave it alone. Because that's where we encounter some issues.
And that's a very, very important point you raised there, Sule, and it's only when you raised it that the reality of it actually hit me in playing it back in my mind. We have, and I know especially in Tobago, when surveys are done, one of the surveys I remember indicated that Tobago is very much a very religious type society. Trinidad as well, when you look at the number of churches that are spread throughout the island of Tobago, in every community you go, you can see several denominational and non-denominational church bodies, buildings, and so on. And so there's a lot of emphasis placed on the spiritual aspect of things. Now, one of the setbacks as well that we know that we have been plagued with in the Caribbean especially is that we are only now catching up with information that the wider world may have been exposed to by way of internet and that kind of thing long before. And so we are now trying to play catch up now that we have exposure to the internet, social media platforms and so on. There are volumes of information now coming. And so the awareness of mental health is now an ongoing conversation. There was a time when it was simply a conversation about adults. Now it's a real conversation in primary schools in terms of even that young being able to identify the symptoms and track them and being able to treat them. And so this has now begun to become a greater part of our conversation because of the exposure to the information. Now, with what you would have said in terms of the spiritual aspect, and yes, there are times when you would hear a person simply say that somebody do them something, somebody plant something with them, somebody rub them with something, somebody work a magic, and this is now the result. The reality is, and you would have pointed very much to it in terms of the use of the word depression, that many persons suffer depression and they of themselves don't even know the depth that it has gone to. Now, before we even leave this evening, I want you to share a bit with us in terms of that issue of depression. I think many persons, too many persons, do not even know how to identify when they are depressed. I know someone personally who, having visited the doctor, was going through some issues and so physically, and the doctor diagnosed him with chronic depression. And it was a joke at first, and quite rightly so when you indicated how we treated it. A number of persons laughed and we made it into a joke. But as time unfolded, exactly what the doctor indicated would start happening in terms of these additional symptoms. They did in fact unfold, and it was only then that you realized that depression is really something so serious that it can lead to so much more. How do we now alert persons to be able to equip them to treat with this depression that we know can affect children, teens, young adults, seniors, everyone? What do we do about that?
Well, before I answer that very quickly, I just want to differentiate. There's clinical sadness. So we all feel sad at some point. There's nobody who's never felt sad, right? So I just want to put that out. There's clinical sadness and depression, which are two different things. Depression is on a much stronger scale and so on, and it is more. It involves more things in terms for a longer period. So you can be very sad, you can be very clinically sad. But when you talk about depression, you're talking about things like loss of interest and so on, change in mood, significant change in mood, and it's persistent. It's persistent sadness, anxiousness, and empty feeling, that sort of thing for an extended period. That's when we talk about depression. That's basically what we're talking about. Now, if we're talking about addressing it first, again and again and again, it's the same thing I'm going to mention. We have to talk about education, because you have to help people recognize what are the signs. How do I know that I might be suffering with depression, or somebody might be suffering with depression? That's how we have to address it. We have to address it with education. We have to we have to get people to understand that it is a legitimate, it is a legitimate mental illness.
Very
and a lot
good
of
word.
people, yes, it's legitimate. So somebody might tell you, why are you still crying over this person, this relationship, or are you still stressing over that? Shrug it off, and just move on. But if it was so easy, the person wouldn't be in that state. If it was something that you could have shrugged off, then it wouldn't happen. If they could have just gotten up and continued going about, because ultimately, let's be real, people don't want to be sad. People don't want to not function. People don't want to not to have the day impacted and stay in bed all day and just under the covers and not interact with anybody and not face the world. When you're in that space, it's because you can't function. You just can't find the energy to function, and that generally that's a mental health issue. That's something that we have to address. You have to seek professional assistance. Start seeing a therapist, a counselor, a psychiatrist, somebody, so you can start working past the issues that have you in that space. Everybody faces it. Everybody does, and we have to destigmatize that so that people can come forward easily and without fear of being persecuted and so on to address issues of depression and that sort of thing. Because if we do now if you tell somebody you're depressed, they laugh at you. Right? But then we also have a bit of an opposite of that, where we have a culture of, we have some of our youth now who cry depression for everything. So now you also have where if they can't use their phone, they're depressed, or if they if they're corrected, then they're depressed, or if they can't have your game now, they're depressed. So we have an older culture, an older population that tries to disassociate from the word depression, and we have a younger culture that
identifies with
that
it often.
tries to appropriate the word. Yeah, correct. That uses the word flippantly.
Yeah.
Right. The idea of depression is just flippant. You bounce your toe and now you're depressed. It's raining outside and now you think you're depressed. But really, it is categorized by a persistent mood of sadness, anxiety, low mood, or feeling a flat affect, that sort of thing, for an extended period. Right? Very low energy and that sort of thing. So there are characteristics that you can look out for an extended period. And then if that is the case, I suggest that you seek professional help.
Thank you so much for that, Sule. We have 1 more minute. I want to give you the opportunity to give Tobago and Trinidad and Tobago, by extension, your closing remarks on this Mental Health Day. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. But what I would like to leave with Trinidad and Tobago, or Tobago and Trinidad or Tobago, what I'd like to leave is this. Listeners, you have worked too hard to get to wherever you are. Wherever you are, you have worked too hard for that. You will not build a house and not put down a foundation. Because the slightest breeze that blows, your foundation will collapse. Your foundation to your building, to you as a structure, is your mental health. Your physical health is the walls and so on and all those other pretty things that you can decorate and you can have. But the foundation that everything else is built upon is your mental health. If you don't take care of that, the rest will collapse. If you're not mentally healthy, you will not find the motivation to go and exercise, the motivation to eat well, the motivation to go out and work. So I will say, please, let's give so significant thought to our foundation. Today's Mental Health Day, they took a day internationally for all of us to stop, pause, and give thought to the importance of your mental health.
Yep.
Let's not mask our mental health in fetting and drinking and liming. Let's treat with the issue and keep your foundation strong.
Very, very well said. Very great advice there. Thank you so much, Sule Joseph, for joining us this evening. As we always say, the Minority Report is not just about coming here and throwing shade or holding the administration accountable, but we also think that there is a critical element of keeping our population educated on issues that are relevant to societal development and societal improvement on a whole. And this program this evening is no different. We want to thank Mr. Joseph for joining us. Always very, very willing. Quite an experienced industry professional, and we trust that as we continue sometime in the future, again, we will probably have him back where we can have a sit-down session, probably an hour-long session even, where we delve a bit deeper into this whole conversation of mental health. But folks, you heard the advice. Let's ensure that we take care of our foundation so that our building will not crumble. We're going to go to a short break, and when we get back, we shift gears a bit into our discussions on Tobago Carnival. We'll be right back.
But this place is boring enough. We don't even do nothing. Let me go somewhere now.
I really want some new things, yes?
Then look no further. Portmore is the place for you.
Oh, really?
Yes, you can have anything that your heart desires. Take a look for yourselves. A world of endless opportunities. Feeling hungry? Go get something to eat. Books and stationeries, games, and much more. Portmore, the island's beat.
and ride on the bike. Take your time and ride on the bike. Take your time and ride on the bike and ride on the bike and ride on the bike. She's loving the ambience of my. Somebody call the ambulance for this chick. I just glong, I don't really quick. That's why she's loving me. Better when it done, you might walk with a stick. Meanwhile, you bend down, let me see you boom flick. Let me beat it up just like. I know you're loving me. When coming to I like the plenty. Sit up, come riding like a Bentley. Full of that need to empty. Take your time and ride on the bike. Take your time and ride on the bike. Take your time and ride on the bike and ride on the bike and ride on the bike. 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 Ride on the 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 bike.
And folks, we are back this evening, and so we're going to shift gear a bit. We just came out of a very, very educational and interesting segment, but we're going to shift gear back to our focus a bit on Tobago. And as we are about to enter into this discussion with our guest in studio, I want us to go immediately to a clip that we have lined up so that we can gain a better perspective as to what has been happening with respect to Tobago Carnival. Mr. Director, let's run that clip.
Minority Leader.
Question number 84 to the Secretary, Division of Education, Research and Technology.
Assemblyman Zorisha Hackett.
Question number 84, as it relates to the school repair program.
Okay, we're going to just get it right with the clip. We had a bit of a mix-up there. We're going to go to the other clip. Let's have it loaded.
Minority Councillor Petal Daniel Benoit.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Question number 85 to the Secretary, Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation. Councillor Tashia Boris.
Councillor Boris.
Madam Presiding Officer, at this time I'm not in a position to answer the question. I'm requesting a deferral to the next sitting.
Madam Presiding Officer.
Minority Councillor, you have a follow-up question?
Yes, Madam Presiding Officer. Madam Presiding Officer, this question speaks to the budget for October Carnival. We are at the cusp of the October Carnival. It is 1 month and probably less than a month away from the October Carnival. So it is quite unfortunate at this time, after having to submit these questions in keeping with the standing orders, that the Secretary can come here today and is unable to answer this question.
Can I have the question, please?
When will the response be available, Madam Presiding Officer?
Councillor Boris.
Madam Presiding Officer, I'm requesting a deferral to the next sitting, please.
Madam Presiding Officer, is it that the Secretary is not aware of the budget for Tobago Carnival? Is it that the Secretary is not aware of what is in place to support stakeholders? Will they have grants? Will the Steel Band fraternity have any support for their events? Would Calypsonians have support? Would Mass Band have support? Madam Presiding Officer, I cannot understand that the Secretary, in less than 1 month, we are hearing complaints about lack of marketing complaints.
Can I have your question, please, Minority Councillor?
Whether or not the Secretary, why is the Secretary unable to answer this question so close to a carnival that we are embarking upon? Is it that the Secretary is unaware, Madam Presiding Officer?
Councillor Boris.
Madam Presiding Officer, I didn't hear a question that I have to answer to. My apologies. But I'm still requesting a deferral to the next sitting.
I would ask that this question be given the same time period, 1 week submission, to the Minority Councillor.
So, folks, we just heard one exchange coming out of the last sitting where the Secretary of Tourism is being engaged by the Minority Councillor with what is considered to be a very relevant question with respect to the budget for the October Carnival in Tobago. Before we go to our guests, we want to just have the other clip played, and then we're going to dive into some discussions this evening. Mr. Director, let's go with it.
Minority Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. Question number 86 to the Secretary, Division of Tourism, Culture, Antiquities and Transportation, Councillor Tashia Boris.
Councillor Boris.
Madam Presiding Officer, I received a notice of question 85 and 86 3 days ago. So at this time, I'm not in a position to provide a response, so I'm also requesting a deferral for this question, and the 1 week timeline is sufficient.
I would say this. I am beginning to become extremely disappointed. I believe you all are provided enough staff, enough time to respond to questions. One week, through my office, Minority Councillor, your answer would be submitted to you. Any follow-up questions?
Yes, Madam Presiding Officer. Like you, I join in expressing my disappointment because, Madam Presiding Officer, this is a follow-up to a question that was previously asked about the CEO of the Tobago Tourism Agency. And I am quite disappointed, to say the least, that the Secretary is unable to tell Tobagonians, tell this House, if somebody has been engaged
for 1 week
in the position, Madam Presiding Officer.
1 week, Minority Councillor.
This is unacceptable, Madam Presiding Officer.
1 week, Minority Councillor.
So, folks, we are back, and joining us this evening in studio, we have quite a lot circling in the atmosphere and in the Tobago public domain about Carnival and preparations and what's taking place. So, we have with us one of our main Carnival stakeholders and band leader, Mrs. Marcelin Ned, in studio, yet again joining us this year. We saw you last year. We had quite a bit of discussions last year. And as fate would have it, you are back with us this evening. Welcome to the program.
Good night. Nice to be here again.
So tell us, we want to go right into it. We just heard some exchanges that took place in the House. And again, I played this so that we can have it for public record and public understanding of some of the challenges that we've been seeing being faced by both the minority leader and the minority councillor, both of whom I want to say good night to at this juncture. They're both logged on, listening, giving their full support on the program as well. Both minority leader and minority councillor go to the House to represent the business of Tobago and the business of all the people of Tobago. And they do that without fear, without favor, without fear of contradiction, as the case may be. They go in the House to get the job done and to get the work done. However, we're seeing, and we would have heard, basic questions, and one of which was the budget for Carnival. And this was 1 week ago. What is the budget for Carnival? And the Secretary of Tourism opted to have it deferred. She don't want to answer that question. And with respect to something that would have been spoken to earlier in the year, in terms of bringing a CEO on a title, again, refusal to respond. That has taken place in the House. We saw, after being pressed in the House, just a few days after, the Secretary, or 1 day after, would have then put out a release with a budget for just over $12 million. And the question is, but if this was already in train, why not answer the question in the House? Then if you didn't answer the question in the House, is it that they just rushed to put something in place? Now we're going to hear from you as a Carnival stakeholder. Tell us what has been happening in the public domain in terms of the stakeholders, the interaction with the division, the secretary. There's a lot taking place, so you go ahead.
Okay, good night to everybody again. As you know, my name is Marcelin Ned from Marcelin Ned and Associates. I've been in this for, as I say, all my life, and I'm doing this almost 24 years on my own now. Well, the opportunity of bringing mass is great. It has its ups and its downs. And here it is now, we have the opportunity to have a Tobago Carnival, something different from Trinidad, from what takes place in the National Carnival. And as I said the last time I was here, we had a meeting. We had people from Trinidad who in the profession and go all over the world and keep Trinidad and Tobago type mass, Notting Hill Carnival and all these places, Miami. So you know you had the expertise given, and it was free of charge. It wasn't no cost to the THA. It was free of charge. But then again, lo and behold, nothing came about. They went about doing their own thing. the Tobago Band Leaders Association, we had no say. We decided, well, here what we will pull out, we will pull back, leave them, let them run the thing, and we have done the same thing this year. But fortunately, some band leaders form TOCA. So TOCA now is strictly band leaders. You have a little promoters, you know, involved in it, both Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not only Tobago band leaders. And TOCA now, with the permission of we the band leaders, speaking on our behalf, we will have our Zoom meetings and we will discuss what we would like to come out of this carnival, what we would like to get from the THA of itself. And I can say they are doing a wonderful job. We ain't having no bacchanal, no tit for tat, but some of the things we had to swallow very hard. For instance...
So just to get it clear, in my mind and the mind of our viewers, so a new association has been formed called TOCA.
Yes.
And TOCA means what exactly? I think it's an acronym.
Tobago Carnival, Tobago October Carnival. That is where they get the name.
Tobago October Carnival.
Yes. So this organization is just for the Tobago Carnival.
And this is not something that the THA implemented. This is something
that came out of conversation. Came out of conversation between some band leaders, promoters, and they have themselves, you know, pitch it out to other people, other band leaders, and say, well, okay, knowing since that the association is not taking part, and it's not that the association don't want to take part, was the disrespect that they gave to us, the band leaders, after we had such prominent meetings with them, and we was looking forward to this thing because you had 22 band leaders, not the rest like the promoters, and the 22 prominent band leaders of Tobago. So you could have pictured how this thing would have looked like instead of you had 9 bands last year. Well, fortunately this year you're having more than 9 bands. So, you know, that is a good thing, but it could be better. It could be better, but we are going along. We want to show the world that here, what for a small island, that we can still manage a carnival, our own brand, you know, bringing it out there to the world, but that's another thing again.
So we are basically about 2 weeks to the start of what we call the October Carnival. And we heard the secretary come out and the division and announce a budget. Tell us about that budget and how it is affecting, whether it's the Band Leaders Association or TOCA, in terms of assistance. What assistance has either been given or promised to the band leaders to support the efforts?
Well, as I said, TOCA was formed with band leaders, and we sit amongst ourselves and try to come up with ideas of how we can get THA to assist band leaders. It was said we won't get no music truck. And then they come and they say, well, all right, they're only going to give music truck for Juve and the Saturday night mass. Well, I of myself, I said in the meeting prominently, why not Pretty Mass? But then the backlash was from last year with all those music truck that they had. Maslin and Associate jumped between 3 music truck last year. And, you know, they don't want that embarrassment anymore. But you cannot blame us, the band leader. The onus was on THA of themselves, and who they put in charge was to run this thing, right? And so this year they decided, well, no monetary gain, no assistance.
No assistance.
No assistance. That is what we started out with. But with the persistence of TOCA, we came up with a plan. We gave them more than one and they choose. Well, we gave them a plan of either they give us a rebate on how much money we spend to do our mass production. They will give us a rebate, something that will help, but is when you would be getting that.
Afterwards.
Right, that will be after. And then we came up with, we had a setup at Shaw Park that run for 2 weeks, because the first week, we call it a band sale.
Okay.
So this band sale was run at Shaw Park from the 28th of September. Yes, I believe the 28th of September, which was a Tuesday, and would have ended this Saturday. And that was a month end. And we say, people getting paid, we go give them this band sale, they go rush for it and see what will happen. But it didn't turn out the way that we wanted it the first time, so it was extended. It finished Saturday gone. So band leader like myself took the opportunity to do this band sale, put myself out there, give discount, whereby THA of themselves say, well, okay, they're going to give us a rebate on how much sale, that is to capture the Tobago people to come out. So my costumes wasn't expensive. I went with the same pricing as last year, which was $1,500 for females, $1,200 for male. Now that we are having Juve in town, I'm taking part in Juve in town, so Juve is $500. So when a person come on this sale now, all they were spending was $1,000, right?
Okay. So you had to, or the band leaders had to reduce the prices to attract.
Okay. And the THA of itself say, well, okay, according to your sales, how things go, we're going to rebate you back $1,000. So it had some band leaders had their costume at $2,200, but that includes Juve also. So mine would have been $2,000 flat, including the Juve and the Pretty Mass. So you gain a rebate of $1,000, and I'm getting $1,000 for myself. So we worked out how we are going to do this, because I was vocal in the meetings that we was having. I said, how are we going to do this thing? Right? Because it was word of mouth. But we iron out the thing now that it's over. You are submitting how much persons that you capture, you're putting in your receipt, number, everything. So you have to show. So
what you would have spent.
What you would have, the sale that you got from selling your costume at this sale. So it's working out, we're ironing out these things, so we will see how it will unfold after the carnival is over. So I seek the opportunity, and I got some response from people, but I could not have sit down in Shaw Park for them to come to me. I went to them. Right? I went to them, present everything, tell them, well, this is what we're doing. Some people walk in at Shaw Park, see what we had, because we had Fog Angel, we had Zane, Iconic, myself, a couple of us was there, and you had Army doing with their Juve and thing. And next thing that they did, 2 weeks back, they launched Tobago Carnival in Trinidad. So this was another opportunity for us, the band leaders, now to promote ourselves in Trinidad. Because remember, Trinidadians was asking, what's taking place?
Yeah.
Is there Tobago Carnival? Even though it was on the calendar. Now remember last year they went Miami, they went all over the place, Grenada. We did not have that this year. So my thought was, as Carnival finish, you would have jumped in one time to promote Tobago October Carnival. They didn't do that, and that was an opportunity that us, the band leaders of ourselves, lose out on. Because remember, you had other carnival, and you have carnival hoppers.
Yeah.
who go from all different kinds, that they would have been here. Some band leaders would get island hoppers, but band leader like myself, I have to stick to the locals. I put myself outside there, but if the locals are the only one that I'm attracting.
So I want to ask a question. You called a number of bands, and again, as you indicated, Toka is a combination of Trinidad stakeholders and Tobago stakeholders. For the band leaders in Tobago, it obviously, to be able to produce the costumes is definitely going to be a cost. And I'm asking this again because I just want us to have it clear. Is it that you all are required to find your own funding to produce the mask, and that based on how many costumes sold, the promise is that you will get a rebate? So, one, what is the source of funding, and how has that been going for you all? And two, has the division put this commitment for a rebate in writing?
Well, I could only speak for myself. I can't speak for others. I could only speak for myself. So I could tell you where I get my source of funding from. For this year Carnival, I put aside a portion of my winnings, since I know that, I'm taking part in October Carnival. Because people who played with me last year reached out to me, are you doing Carnival this year? We had a wonderful time, spite what, and we plan to return again. And from that feedback that I got from them, I decided, I'm going to try it again.
So out of pocket?
So it's out of pocket. I am doing this. It was always out of pocket, even for Carnival. Even though they was giving you a little grant, which they didn't give this year, it was out of pocket. So I believe all the rest of band leaders and them who are taking part, whether it is Juve, the night mass, it is out of pocket. Sponsors, well, I will give the festival a little kudos that they had sponsors reach out to them, and they forwarded to us via email to seek sponsors who wanted to sponsor. So I took the opportunity, because last year it was so heartrending to write to so much sponsors and didn't even get much less as, besides one. One of them say, them ain't sponsoring nothing. I wouldn't call the establishment. Them ain't sponsoring nothing. I put my tail between my leg and I say, thank you for listening to me, and I left the establishment. So I had said, they say, see me, I doing it on my own. I ain't writing no sponsors. So when that opportunity knocked on my door,
you welcomed it.
Seeked it. One or two reach out to me, and I thank them for reaching out to me, still waiting on what it is they'll be offering my band for this year. So,
and with respect to the commitment now made by the division.
Right. So based on the commitment, they sent us an email. So everything is being done by email. That we are to present how much sale we got. As I said, you're doing it by receipt because you're doing this thing professionally, that nobody wouldn't be bubbling nobody. So I ain't going to be sitting down and say, well, I get 40 persons and there's no way to show I get 40 persons. So, I went and I drew up my receipt with my brand, my logo, everything. And it's by that, and you present your receipt number, the person name, no phone number, because I said I would not be doing that. I cannot give people phone number for you to come and say, well, did you play mass with so? So we decided you're going to get the persons and their name, what sections they are playing in, male or female. You have the pricing. So that is as far as it goes for now, until after the event is over. They could say, well, yes, I see Marceline and an associate. She had 400 persons and she submitted 100 persons
so
we are going along that line.
Has there been a commitment in terms of time frame?
Well, when we had our TOCA meeting, I asked that question, and it was being said maybe a week, 2 weeks, you never could tell.
For the payment to be made.
But we know how things go, so we're just going with the flow. We just want to make sure that this production come off good.
We have just 2 more minutes. The director already started singing my ears. But I want to ask you this final question. We're seeing a repeat somewhat of what we saw last year for the carnival season, where very little emphasis is placed on the actual mass and developing our local product and band leaders. And high emphasis is being placed on fetes. I want to get a statement from you, and I know this would be something that many of the local stakeholders would be speaking to. How do you feel about that another year?
Well, honestly speaking, I'm disappointed. And here why I say I'm disappointed. Last year, through Nikosi Phillips, remember, we had a meeting, and Nikosi Phillips came up with this idea with Mass Calypso and Pan. And it was not well supported by the THA. And we had a rum-pum time, I could tell you that. And we have to thank Ms. Shamfa Kaju and our esteemed Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, that we got some funding through them to host the event. But it came off okay. And this year we are doing the same thing. Now, Nikosi Phillips started promoting Cornucopia from since last year and continue. And we have not got no funding. We haven't got no word.
Nothing from the THA.
And even sponsors that we wrote. But no, we are having a meeting Thursday, because I think he was reached out by somebody from the committee. So I cannot say what it is they're going to offer, if anything. And then there's another event which supposed to take part come Friday. It should have taken part last week Friday. And they asked THA for assistance, and they're now being reached out. But it caught up because you were supposed to have a mass competition. That is not in it. But again, you have businesses around Scarborough who will be pitching in. So you will get like something from the mass fraternity taking part on its mass on the boardwalk. We're trying to get a nice name for it. So it will be this Friday from 4 to about in the night time, because you will be having soca artists, guest artists, and the mass along with other special guests will be putting on this production to hype the carnival now for people to say, well, yes, something happening in Tobago. But I kind of disappointed where the part with Cornucopia, and they knew that Cornucopia was coming off. They didn't put it on the calendar so that people would have known, well, here we have something in the making, but we are going ahead, whether we get sponsored, and we are having, it is overwhelming. You're having people from Trinidad on board. You're having people from Tobago on. We even have an artist from America who is on board with Cornucopia, and we are going with it. Whether or not we get the funding, we will be having a room time. So I'm telling Tobago people, please come out, support. We are doing this for people like myself, for other young artists who didn't make it, never had a stage to present themselves. So Cornucopia is doing this to promote the young artists, the young band leaders, and please come out. We'll be hosting this thing on the 20th of this month at Buku facility. Hopefully, we are keeping our fingers crossed that everything goes well. Well, Ms. Shamfa Kaju, she's trying to assist us still. I do hope other sponsors, please come on board. It's a wonderful thing, because as I said, you have young people, you have the pan side one not taking part in the pan and powder, still coming out to do something. So please come out, and to the THA, we need all hands on board. Let's throw aside the politics and thing. This is we thing. And let us make it grand for people from all over the world to see that Little Tobago can have a great carnival.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Ned, in studio with us this evening discussing the Tobago Carnival. Folks, we are not out of words, but we are definitely out of time. I want to thank Mrs. Ned for taking the time to come to share the information with us and all of Tobago and by extension Trinidad and Tobago. And that's where we close off this evening, folks. I want to encourage you to continue seeking to find the best set of information so that you can be more informed in your decision making. And we look forward to seeing you next week. We're going to be having a very interesting guest in studio next week, and we have a discussion on health internationally, regionally, and right here in Tobago. I'm Marlon David saying good evening and good night to you. Have a wonderful and blessed evening.